Khandro-la, thank you so much for joining me today to discuss this very exciting topic that I know is at the heart of what makes Dakinis Whisper so special. Wanted to ask you, just to begin with, for those who are completely new to Vajrayana Buddhism and haven't heard this term before, could you please explain what your perspective is on what subtle body means?
For those who are new to Vajrayana Buddhism, the term subtle body sounds like mysterious, but actually it points to something very intimate, our lived inner experience. While we all know our physical body, we are very familiar with this physical body, material body. Vajrayana teaches that beneath and within it flows invisible network of energies, channels, wind, so-called, subtle energies, and luminous awareness, most importantly. So this is called the subtle body. It's like the inner architecture of our being, the bridge between the physical and the spiritual body or spiritual aspect, dimension of beings, you can say. So just as the breath affect our mood or a thought can steer the body, the subtle body links mind, energy, and form in an incredibly refined way. In daily life, we often feel tension, fatigue, or inspiration and joy without knowing why. Do you have that experience? Many of these experiences arise from disturbances or opening in the subtle dimensions. By becoming aware of it and learning to gently tune into it through this kind of yogic practice, we start to align more with clarity, vitality, and compassion, in fact. In subtle body yoga, we are not just stretching muscles or twisting, and we are learning to listen to and move with a deep current of energies and awareness that underlies our experience. It's a powerful doorway, I could say, into healing, presence, and eventually awakening. Yeah, there are a lot more to say about the subtle body, but basically something like that.
Thank you for that answer. Yeah, I think it will be very important for people to know that the subtle body is something that everyone has access to every moment. It's not just a specific yogic thing, but yeah, this relationship that you're talking about, how we can cultivate it, how we can build it. I'm curious, within your practice, it's done through this yogic approach, and I'm curious, how did this yogic approach evolve specifically in Buddhism, and how this might differ from other popular understandings of yoga, like Hatha yoga, Vinyasa yoga, of course, are very popular today with their history in Asian and Indian background. But I assume that there's, it's kind of a separate stream.
Yeah, I could say something about that from the perspective of person who are putting to the both areas, so to speak. The yogic approach to the subtle body in Buddhism evolved as an integral part of Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism, especially like in Tibet. So unlike many other systems where yoga focuses, especially contemporary yoga, focuses primarily on the physical body, in Vajrayana, the subtle body becomes the essential gateway for transforming consciousness. So we are concerned about the transformation of awareness and consciousness. Practitioners discovered that by working directly with the internal so-called channels, winds, drops, and energy infrastructure of our being, they could rapidly clear obscurations or layers and layers of obscurations and realize the luminous nature of mind, core of who and what we are. So this is not just a theory. In fact, it's a path whole journey of direct inner experience aimed at awakening. Now, when we compare this to more popular form, especially contemporary form of yoga, like a hatha or vinyasa, which beautifully emphasize physical health, flexibilities, and mindfulness. The focus in subtle body yoga is a bit different. It's more about accessing and guiding energy, subtle energy through certain method. Of course, breath, awareness, visualization, inner stillness, and fun movement, dance, all grounded in Buddhist understanding of mind and emptiness. Subtle body yoga isn't just another style of yoga, although it's called yoga. Yoga means union, so union of body and mind, union of awareness and emptiness, union of appearance and emptiness. So it's a practice rooted in the profound view of Vajrayana, where body and mind are seen as a vehicle of awakening. It supports our meditation, our transformation, and ultimately our liberation.
Thank you for that answer. It's very profound to understand it, and I'm very curious now about how in your journey you were led to discovering subtle body yoga. Was it a specific teacher who inspired you or introduced you, or how did it first show up in your practice?
My approach to subtle body yoga really grew out of, you can say, the natural evolution of my life journey and practice. In my late teens and 20s, you may heard about it, I was immersed in traditional Tibetan Buddhist training, studying the classical text and receiving lots of transmissions from great masters. That foundation shapes everything, so ground. So you can say that's the first step to evolve into this form. When I moved to the state, I found myself being drawn into a deeper relationship with my whole being, not just one part of my being, including my body. Body became so important. Body involvement or making a relationship with my own body became essential on my journey. In the late 1990s, I began formal training in yoga and yoga therapy while continuing my Vajrayana practice. The integration of these two streams, Buddhist wisdom, you can say, and embodied awareness practice, was profoundly healing to me. It helped me feel whole. Subtle body yoga, as I've kind of come to develop or to shape in this way and share it, gave me a way to honor not just the meditative and philosophical aspect, but also creativity, intuition, spontaneity, and genuine emotional expressions, including all the fun stuff. Through my own journey, I came to understand how essential it is to include the body, not just the physical body, but the subtle body as a part of the path to awakening. That's what inspired me to bring this work forward. The subtle body is called feeling body, energy body, wisdom body, intuition body, all different names. So each of us has that.
It's so interesting. Continuously touched by that story, and especially how your approach took on this integrational element about bringing together different streams and exploring different ways that we can get in touch. You've brought up the words fun and joy a few times, and this might be something for certain individuals unfamiliar to the kind of strictness of practice that, for example, for myself, that I experienced early on in my journey. And when I came to the Kinis Whisper, this emphasis on getting in touch with emotion, and especially these states that are joyful and open us up. was very profound. So, yeah, I just wanted to insert a question and ask you, like, how do you relate to the element, I guess, of joy in practice? How do you see it as an important aspect of practice?
Yeah, Dharma practice is not easy. You might know this Dharma journey and a Buddhist spiritual journey is not that easy. Then, if we superimpose this difficult journey with strictness or more solidify this practice, it started to choke more because we are practicing in order to untie the knots and come to the freedom, openness. We are moving toward that. Instead of that, we tend to, as a human being, tend to kind of push ourselves with lots of expectation without releasing all the fun stuff. We tend to really go into the different directions. I myself found that. So bringing a lot of joy and enjoyment to this Dharma practice itself will very much like untying the knot and moving toward that awakening, so-called, really opening, awakening to what and who we truly are. What and who we truly are is sweetness and openness, complete full openness of a whole being. And so I think it's very important to bring this aspect. Although traditional presentation of Dharma may not have included this aspect, but now Buddhism moved to the West, and now our generation, so we can bring lots of those sort of elements to whatever works for us. Although it may look a little funky from outside, somebody who trained in the traditional way, but hey, whatever works for us.
Exactly. Yes. I think it's so inspiring. And I'm thinking about, for me, myself, the Subtle Bodhi Yoga class was the first class I ever attended with Dakini's Whisper. And it was such an exciting way to be introduced to the community in your specific way of sharing the teaching with, generosity and heart. But I wonder, because of course this is also a tantric rooted practice. Do you think that this is a place where students who might not have a background in tantric practice can begin, or has it traditionally required initiation or commentary prior to being able to engage in subtle body yoga in the way that you present it?
Yeah, yes. Somebody with no background in Tantric Buddhism or Tantric practice can begin their journey with Subtle Body Yoga. Absolutely, yes. Subtle Body Yoga is designed to be accessible and experiential to one's own being. So as long as we have a human body and mind, this is a practice for you. So it offers a gentle embodied entry point into a deeper wisdom. In fact, wisdom within, but wisdom of Vajrayana Tantric Buddhism without requiring formal initiation at the beginning. In fact, many students first kind of happen to come to Subtle Body Yoga out of curiosity or simple longing to connect with their body, energy, or inner clarity through the practices. For example, breath awareness, dance, subtle body movement, and visualization. They begin to sense and awaken something very real, genuine, and visceral experience within themselves. Of course, subtle body yoga is rooted in the view and method of Tantra Vajrayana. So as practitioners grow, they may feel naturally drawn to explore the teachings more deeply. So natural kind of progressions. But the initiation is not a requirement to start. What matters most, I feel, is an open heart, a curious mind, and a willingness to listen to your own subtle experience. That's where the journey begins, I feel.
Yeah, it's a very unique way of presenting where it's, I guess, reflects exactly where the student is in how they experience a subtle body yoga class. For a total beginner, this could be profoundly intuitive kind of practice. But I was wondering as well for somebody who already has a stable practice, whether within the Dakini's Whisper community or maybe coming from a different stream, I wonder, can subtle body yoga be integrated into their practice, especially, from our perspective, there's the creation and completion stage yogas that a lot of tantric practitioners engage in that very much also discuss the subtle body. So, yeah, does it offer something to practitioners that they could also integrate?
Mhm. Yeah, of course, for those with a stable Vajrayana practice, subtle body yoga is for you. Yoga can become a powerful support and the enhancer of both creation and completion stage yogas. It helps make these often subtle internal practices more accessible or embodied and alive and genuine within our own practice. For example, in the creation stage, subtle body yoga refined our capacity to visualize clearly, feel deeply, and inhabit the deity's form with greater presence. So not just visualizing, but in a more embodied way. Through this kind of method, through breath, posture, subtle energy awareness, and movement, we can bring the visualization off the page, so to speak, into direct experience. So uniting the form and the felt sense. It's so important when we practice sadhana. We tend to, or traditionally tend to be just a form, not the embodied felt sense. It's so important to combine the form and felt sense experience. So that's the generation stage. Then in the completion stage, of course, where we work directly with the subtle body, channel, wind, and drops. Subtle body yoga provide a foundation for accessing these dimensions more experientially. That's the important part. More experience, not theoretically. So the preparatory somatic practices in subtle body yoga helps loosen rigidity, dissolve blockages, as I was talking about, dissolve the blockages and cultivate the sensitivities needed for inner yoga, kind of advanced practice. For example, like Tummo, clear light and illusionary body. Ultimately, you can say that ultimately subtle body yoga is not separate from the tantric path. It's a way of tuning our instrument, so to speak, so that the creation and completion stages become more vivid, embodied, and transformative. So that's for the advanced practitioners. Then the previous question was for the kind of newcomer, so to speak. So subtle body yoga is for both of them.
Yes, thank you. And I think in my experience, sometimes it really helps to also open yourself up to the newcomer mindset and be able to explore something anew. Because with the subtle body yoga classes, one of the things that people really enjoy is the element of surprise that
Yeah.
comes. They are very free flowing and you introduce so many things that kind of shake us out of our habitual way of relating to practice. And I know that, from experience, but also from much more experienced perspectives of other practitioners, that the tantric path can be one of unexpected turns, and blockages and obstacles are, being purified, and they come up and we face them. So your experience has subtle body yoga. You mentioned a little bit about this, but I'm curious more. Has it helped you overcome challenges on the path, and do you see it as one of these tools that can really take us from one stage to the next in that way?
Yeah, it's very natural for practitioner to encounter blockages, like almost it's granted. Blockages and obstacles and challenges, whether physical, emotional, energetic, or spiritual, at the various points of the path. Then you can say that you are practicing, you are on the journey. If you haven't encountered it yet, then maybe you haven't done practice enough. Anyways, in my own experience, Subtle Body Yoga offers a gentle yet powerful way to meet these challenges, not bypassing them, but by embodying and transforming them. Yeah, what happens is that often obstacles arise when energies becomes stuck, when emotions are unprocessed, or when the body holds unacknowledged tension. Subtle body yoga helps us bring awareness directly into these areas through subtle movement, dance, breath, or inner listening. Instead of getting stuck in the mind or trying to force our way through, like a push through, we enter into a dialogue with the body and the subtle body. It's so important to have a conversation with our own body and the subtle body. This opens the space for healing, release, and deeper integration. Just a personal experience, if I share. After my son passed away, you can imagine the grief felt overwhelming and far beyond what words or even traditional practices I was doing, could contain. In those moments, the subtle body yoga became a lifeline for me. I would lie down, for example, and breathe and move gently and allow the low pain to be held in the space of awareness. There was no goal, only presence. Over time, through this embodied practice, I would feel grief softening into love, pain transforming into prayer. Subtle body yoga allowed my body to grieve and my subtle body to stay connected to the sacred, something sacred. Yeah, in this way, subtle body yoga become both a support and a companion, one that helps us return again and again to the wisdom of our own embodied experience and continue forward with greater clarity, ease, and compassion. So sometimes very difficult to define the subtle body yoga. Actually, it's impossible to say in word. I want you to experience it. I was talking here, sharing with you, like being how to be present with whatever arises. This kind of experience is very important, not necessarily traditional Dharma practice could offer more explicitly.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Yeah, it's very touching, and it's really goes towards the goal of receiving any teaching is being able to implement it in these times where our ordinary samsaric tools run out, and this is where the practice meets us, I think, quite often in the beginning of the path. I curious for in the culture right now, this conversation about processing our emotions is becoming more emphasized through tools like therapy and other kind of holistic treatments that are coming in. But yeah, subtle body yoga's connection to the vastness of the tantric tradition brings a uniqueness to it that I think is, rare to find in a lot of modern ways of getting in touch with our kind of more deeply buried sides. And one of the ways that I think that beauty of tradition has come through is in the subtle body yoga classes that you have taught in the context or framed around specific dakinis and deities and even figures from history of tantric Buddhism. For myself, of course, I'm very much in touch with the inspiration coming from the iconography that we have in Tantra and being able to look at images of deities and their mudras and postures, and then actually being able to try to embody those figures and try to replicate some of those postures within the context of movement, and therefore being able to tap into more of what the meaning of our imagery and our practice is very profound for me. So I'm curious, yeah, how can modern practitioners use the practice to connect to divine pride or sacred dignity, as well as connect to the vastness of lineage that has come before us that can sometimes feel infinitely large and overwhelming and rather impersonal, I guess.
Yeah, I appreciate this question, Yes, absolutely. One of the most beautiful aspects of Sattva Body Yoga is that it offers a living bridge between our modern experience and the sacred dimension of the lineage, especially through the presence of Dakini and deities. In Vajrayana, deities are not dualistic, or the deity is not just a symbol or symbolic or distance far away. They are living aspect of our own awakened nature. By engaging the subtle body through this kind of method, yogic method, modern practitioner can begin to embody these sacred energy, not just visualizing. In fact, embody who and what we are already. This makes the connection more visceral, immediate, intimate, and transformative. When I teach subtle body yoga in the context of particular dakinis, like Vajrayogini, Shihamukha, or the five wisdom dakinis, it's not about the performance or concept. It's about the invitation, inviting these qualities into the body, or unveiling the quality of we already have, feeling their wisdom, ferocity or fierceness, clarity, and spaciousness. You know those things, take root in our own subtle beings. Through this, practitioner can experience a sense of sacred dignity. You use that term, sacred dimension of who and what we are, a deep inner wholeness or worthiness, and the power that isn't based on ego. In our daily life, most of our actions are ego-driven. This is the opportunity, something very powerful that isn't based on ego, but on the awakened, you can say the feminine essence we all carry, regardless of gender. Yeah. In this way, subtle body yoga becomes a way to encounter the stream of the lineage, not just intellectually, but energetically and spiritually. It gives us a way to feel supported, guided, and empowered right here, right now, at this moment. Yeah, so very powerful practice. But again, as I said, it's undefinable. So I want you to experience it. That's the most important thing on this journey, I think.
Oh, I think it's been very helpful being able to, if not define this term, have more context around it from your unique perspective and the way that it helps bring theory into experience and practice to life. Is there anything further you'd like to add, or any other encouragements you'd like to give students of yours or subtle body yoga?
I wholeheartedly invite you to become intimate with who and what you already are. I feel this is the time. This is a really important time to embody and what you already have, what you are, and have fun. It's so important to bring a lot of joy and enjoyment to our spiritual practice, spiritual journeys. Otherwise, if this journey is torturing, it's not gonna work. I know that one so well myself. Yeah, I have to bring lots of joy and happiness and sweetness to our practice.
Yeah, thank you so much. I very much look forward to the next time you are going to offer these practices. And yeah, I would say to anyone who's coming, joy is definitely one of the few things we can guarantee is
Yeah,
is
thank
is
you,
part of.
Rima, for having me share something about something I really felt important through my own experience.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Rima.